Hi everyone, it's Trishna. Happy Saturday. So, we've talked about how I got a new phone, and that arrived last Saturday morning, and it has been absolutely amazing. I'm loving it. I got the Google Pixel 4a, and also really positive news, at least in my perspective. Today, I saw just maybe an hour or so before getting on this live, but as I was preparing for it in the middle of it, I saw that Biden had been called as the president-elect for 2021. So that's pretty exciting. And, that's the breaking news. And I actually had something different that I was planning to talk about today, but with the new phone and the president-elect, I've decided to come up like I came up with a new video. I thought that was a little bit more relevant to talk about. That was a little bit more important to talk about, a little bit more interesting to talk about, and it all ties into spirituality and the law of attraction. And we're gonna take this conversation along those lines, and you'll see how it all meshes into three powerful lessons that you can take away and walk away with um, from this video, regardless of what political party that you support. So, okay, getting into it. So, my new phone. So, I received my new phone last Saturday, but the day before, the night before, I was on a date with my fiance, and we were driving, and we're actually driving home, I believe, and my battery was at 60. Sorry. So, we're going on a date, and at some point, I looked at my phone, and it was 60%. And I didn't touch my phone for the rest of the night. Like I didn't look at it, I didn't use it to check the time. All I did was carry it around because it serves as my wallet and my ID and everything like that. So I didn't touch my phone, didn't turn it on, didn't use it at all. And that's because my phone battery was really, really bad on my old phone. And on our way back, my fiance's phone, my husband's phone, was starting to run out of charge, and I think his phone actually died. So we needed my phone to navigate us back home. And I was like, oh, great, no, it's all good. Like, I was at 60% before. Like, I'll probably be at 40% at this point. But no, I was down to 3%. And my phone died. But fortunately, we were able to find our way back home. As you can tell, I'm here in my home. So now I have this brand new Google Pixel 4a. And I like my okay, so whereas before I was charging my phone twice a day, I am now charging my phone every other day. And it's really amazing and it's really awesome. And it's probably my favorite thing about this phone right now, even though it has many, many other awesome features. But that's what I really like about it. But even now, when I look at my phone percentage, when it says 50%, I still have this same anxiety within myself that my phone's about to die, that it's going to go from 50 down to 0% all of a sudden out of the blue. And on the Google Pixel 4a, when you look at the battery percentage, you can roll it down and I'll see that no, it's going to last me until tomorrow. It's going to last me another 24 hours. But in my mind, I'm still having to adjust to this new reality that I'm living in, this new battery life that I now have. And so, one of the things that we really need to work on whenever, or all of us need to work on whenever we are trying to manifest our reality, is trust. When we start receiving signs or we start receiving our manifestation, sometimes it can be really hard for us to leap into this new reality and to accept that it has changed. So maybe if we're in a relationship and we've been having a lot of conflicts with our partner, and maybe we've been really focusing on the positive aspects of our partner and really appreciating them and like trying to manifest a reality where ourselves and our partner have fewer conflicts or are able to resolve them much more effectively or gently. When that starts to happen, when this thing starts to change, sometimes we don't believe it. Sometimes we believe like, oh, no, that was just a fluke. And we have a hard time adjusting to this new reality. If any of you are trying to call in maybe an ex-partner and bring them back into your life, you may start working on your beliefs and your thoughts and you may start seeing little signs, but you're not really able to believe them or connect with them fully. We start thinking, oh no, like, well, they said this, but they also said all of this. Or they said this, but I know in the past this actually meant this. And we have a hard time trusting that our reality is starting to shift. And I feel like even with this election, where today Biden was, what's the word? Called as president-elect. He's going to be our president for 2021. And also, just gonna put in there, congrats to Kamala. It took me a moment, but I was like, oh my gosh, like she is now the first woman vice president we've ever had in the United States. She's also the first Black vice president and the first Black Indian vice president. So she's made history like 3 times all in one. So that's pretty awesome as well. But anyways, just now I know that it's been called, and I've looked at the numbers and I see how even with recounts, like first of all, there's a lot of recounts that aren't going to happen now because of how different states do them and the percentage points. I don't know if you guys don't care about that. We won't go into the details of that. But for the ones where there could be a recount, the variance is pretty minimal. So essentially, it's assured that Biden is going to be the president for 2021. But even now in my mind, I'm thinking like, ooh, like don't get too excited yet, Trishna. Like let the votes all go to 100%. Let's wait till February, 2021 when Biden actually takes office. When that happens, then it's a sure deal. But until then, even though reality is showing me that it has adjusted, we have left the crazy timeline we were on before, and we've entered into a new and improved timeline that was even better than the one before the craziness. Even though like I know reality has shifted, I'm having a little bit of a time adjusting to this new reality. I do want to pause here for a moment, um, and just say that like I am very excited that Biden got elected, but I will say that I do think Trump was a president that we really needed for the past 4 years. He is not who I voted for. He is not who I would ever have voted for or ever will vote for. And now I don't ever even have to think about that. But him being elected was actually very, very important because he really broke down, he didn't break down our system, but he showed us where all of our flaws were. He showed us how easily our system could be broken down. And he really brought to the surface a lot of the impurities that we have in our society and how we treat each other. And brought that to the surface so that we could really notice it and see it. Because I think a lot of us were aware, but I think some of us were truly aware. Some of us were pretty aware, but weren't really noticing it in our day-to-day reality. And then I know a huge portion of people who really are just coming to terms with some of the things that we do to each other in this country who weren't aware of it before, who are like just now awakening. So this is really, really important. Like we would not have had the opportunity or the ability to improve these things had a spotlight not been shined down upon on these darknesses that we have in our society at this point in time. So um, the past 4 years have been really difficult, but they were really, really important. And the fact that Biden has been elected shows me that as a society and as from a spiritual perspective, that there probably are a lot of impurities that still need to be surfaced, but we have already, as a society, started shifting towards wanting things to be better, wanting things to be improved. And so I think that with this Biden and Kamala presidency, or administration, that they come from the old world. They come from what was before Trump, which was working, but not good enough, right? There were still those impurities that were there that have now been revealed to us. So both of them, Biden and Kamala, come from that time period, like come from that previous reality that we were in. But now that we've had this shift through Trump, even though they come from that previous reality, now that we all are awakened to a lot of these impurities, they can take that and they can start creating the shifts that we need. And I will also say that the past 4 years have been really, especially 2020 has been really pivotal for me because I had one of my awakenings in 2012, or actually just a little bit before that. And then they were talking about how indigos are here to basically shake up the old systems so that we can break them down and crumble them so we can build something better, crumble that foundation that was faulty to begin with, like we've talked about in my previous videos with the Tower card, and build a better foundation. And between like 2012, when that was supposed to have happened, and 2020, there wasn't really a lot of that happening. And so to me, eventually just became like this thing that was just what the new age people would say. And then 2020 happened, and I feel like basically everything crumbled in a way that it was supposed to, so that we can build something better. And it brought me back into a new level of awakening. So anyways, I just felt like I need to throw that out there because I know this is like a very tense time, not just for people in America, but like for the whole world. Everybody's been watching this election, and Trump had still a large fan base or support base. So, some of you may be watching this be like, oh, like I don't really want to hear about this. And I just want to let you know that like, yeah, like I definitely am really happy about this, but I understand why we needed to have the past 4 years happen. It was really important for our development as a society, not just here, but all around the world. So anyways, just wanted to put that out there. That's been my personal growth journey for the past few years, especially 2020. With regards to this, okay, so getting back into the topic. So yeah, just having this like trust, this seeing the reality and seeing the evidence that it has shifted, but not truly being able to embrace it as a new reality, still needing more evidence, still needing reality to prove itself to me that it has changed before I can trust. And that's not really how the law of attraction works and how doing your spiritual growth work works. So basically the first lesson there is like, no matter what it is that you're trying to manifest, understand that when things start to shift, it is okay that it's difficult to adjust to that new reality, but the quicker that you adjust to it, the quicker that the new reality will start to solidify and become the new reality that you were looking for. The next thing that I want to mention is that, with all this election going on, we've had a change. We went from Obama, and then we flipped over to an extreme to Trump, and now we flipped back over to something a little bit more middle ground moving forward. And so things are always in flux. Things are always changing back and forth. And that's actually really powerful. That's actually really, really important. And that really speaks to quantum physics. So in this reality time space, like on the version that we live in, the version that we see every day, we don't see these changes happening as quickly as we would like to. We put a desire out there and we wish that it would happen immediately. But sometimes it takes a few hours, sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a few weeks, sometimes it takes a few months for something that we really want to have manifest. And so when we live in this world, we think things are moving really slowly, things are really fixed, and so it's really hard to change things. If things aren't working out, then I have to leave because that situation can't change. It is fixed as it is. And I've been reading this book called Do You Quantum Think? And it basically speaks a lot about things I already know, but it really puts it in perspective in our world. And one of the things that Diane Collins, I believe, who is the one that wrote that book, that she says is that the reason why we believe our world is so fixed is because most of our physics knowledge comes from more of the classical mechanical physics theory that basically Newton and other physicists from that time period developed and studied. And that's because at the time, all that we really had access to was what we could see with our own eyes. Newton saw an apple fall from a tree. That's what he could see. They didn't have, the kinds of microscopes that we have right now to be able to see even deeper and to really study things at smaller levels or even greater levels. So a lot of our mentality comes from physical objects and things being exactly as they are, and that's how they stay as they are. But then when you look into quantum physics and you look even deeper at some of the new studies that they have, and this is not new, but some of the newer studies that they have, things are always in flux, things are always changing. You'll see a quantum particle that leaps from orbit to orbit in a way that it shouldn't. You'll see quantum particles that should be bouncing off of each other start to fuse and create sunlight. We'll see quantum particles be here and then be inside a box all at the same time. We'll see quantum particles that are spinning in one direction but also spinning in the opposite direction all at the same time. So things at the quantum level are very, very, they're all about chaos and it's all about change. Chaos in an ordered way, but it's like all about change, all about flux. And that actually is how our reality works as well. We just don't always perceive it that way. So with an election, there's all this change happening, there's all this chaos happening, but that chaos is important because it eventually becomes ordered. And how does that become ordered? It becomes ordered by how we think and how we perceive things. So that actually kind of segued really nicely into the next point. Okay, we'll go on to the next point and then I'll give kind of an example that came to mind of like how things are always changing, and it's really important that you kind of go with the flow and know that nothing is permanent. But all right, let's just go into that story right now. Yeah, so one thing, like working in the corporate world has been just an eye-opener in terms of spirituality and the law of attraction. And you wouldn't think that the corporate world would be like that, but they're like everything is fractal, there are signs everywhere, there's lessons everywhere. So one thing about change is just working in the corporate world, there was this one guy that I worked with, and he really wanted to be a manager. And he was not a very good manager. He was not good at dealing with people. He just wasn't good. Just no. And the company that I was working at was really good about not promoting people who would make other people's lives hell if they reported to them. So he really wanted to be promoted, and his boss said, no, I don't really think that you're ready for that. I don't think that's really the role for you. He didn't like that answer. So he went to his boss's boss. His boss's boss said, no, like, it's not really the right role for you. You can work on these things, but this is not really where you're supposed to be right now. He didn't like that answer, so he went to his boss's boss's boss, the VP. And the VP got super pissed at him for asking like every layer until he could get the answer that he wanted. So now personally, my personal opinion of this is like, wow, good for him, like going after what he wants. But that's not the moral of the story. So the VP was extremely pissed at this guy. This guy ended up being on the VP shit list. And he stayed. Like for me, if I had gotten that much hate from management, multiple layers of it, I would have been like, oh my gosh, like my job is not secure. I should probably look for something else. But he didn't do that. He just worked hard. He stuck it out. And in the end, what ended up happening is everybody else that was on that team, the layers of management above him, all three, and then his team, all of them ended up leaving or they ended up getting laid off or getting fired or having to move to a different part of the organization. And he was the one person that ended up staying. He outlived everybody else because things are always changing. So he didn't worry about, like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to lose my job. He worked on some level, but he just stuck with what he was doing. He stuck with what he wanted. He worked hard towards it, and everything changed, and now he recently got promoted, so he ended up getting what he wanted. So things are always in flux, and it's really important that you know that, for better or for worse. So if things are going really well, just know that you need to maintain the direction of your thought in that positive way, and you will bring in more positive things. If things are not going well, make sure to shift your observation, your thoughts, and your focus so that things will change, because either way they're going to change. It's about how are you going to direct that change. And so that's the next point. So we live in a world where we just talked about the physical realm. We also live in a world where we believe that there is scarcity, that we believe that there isn't enough to go around. There isn't enough food to go around, there isn't enough water to go around, there isn't enough homes to go around, there isn't enough promotions to go around, there isn't enough money to go around. If somebody has more, that means that they're taking from me. So in order for me to get more, I have to take back from them. So we live in this scarcity mindset. And another reason why Trump got elected, because that's very much focused on the scarcity mindset. But anyways, that's the mindset that a lot of us carry because it's kind of how we're trained. But there's always more. There's always more. So in the past, we talked about the double slit experiment, about how the scientists, when they observed the experiment and expected certain results, the results that they expected are what they received. But when they didn't watch the results and had no expectations, the results that they received seemed impossible. Crazy. That should never have happened. It's impossible. It couldn't have happened. So, how we observe things and what we expect is what creates that reality for us. And one thing is like we have looked at, back in the day, we thought that, molecules were the smallest unit that existed, or like cells. Then we thought it was molecules. Then we thought it was atoms. Then we're like, no, 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 it's not atoms, it's electrons. And then we thought it was quarks. And, now we're into the string theory and the quantum physics. And every time we find something smaller and smaller and smaller. And the thing is that's because of our direction, how we focus. If you keep looking for the smallest particle, the smallest unit, you're going to find something smaller. So if physicists are going to be looking for something even smaller than strings or quarks or something like that, they're going to find something smaller because the universe always provides. The universe always provides. Whatever desire you have out there, it is automatically creating that reality. And then it's just about shifting into that reality. It's just about focusing on that reality. It's about working on your beliefs and your feelings. So scarcity does not exist. The moment that you think, I want to find more money gets created. Now you have to shift into that reality, but more money gets created. Just like with the particles, there's always going to be something smaller because when the desire is there and the focus is there and the observer is there, that is what is going to be created more of. So if you want more love, if you want more appreciation, the moment that you start wanting it, it gets created by the universe, it gets fulfilled. And then it's just about you matching up with the fulfilled version. All right. And let's go into string theory just a little bit because I want to post the chicken or the egg question here. So we're just talking about We talked about string theory just now, just for like a quick moment. So in string theory, they believe that there are like these little strings of, I think, energy, and I need to read a little bit more about it. But they believe that there are, the string theories show that there are 10 dimensions. That's the most commonly or like used number, 10 dimensions, but I like to use 12 dimensions. The reason why I like to use 12 dimensions, which is also respective, I've also heard that in terms of string theory, and there may even be more. I've heard that the number fluctuates. Chaos, right? Tons and tons of things going on the quantum level. But with string theory, I like to use the 12 dimensions. The reason why I like to use that is because in the spiritual community, what have we been talking about? We've been talking about the 12 dimensions. We've been talking about the 12 strands of DNA that are actually there, and most of them are not activated. So 12 is just this common number that's always been in the spiritual community. And so that is where the chicken or the egg question comes up. So the spiritual community has always been talking about 12 dimensions, 12 strands of DNA. So is science with the string theory and the 12 dimensions that a lot of them refer to in the physics community, are they proving the spiritual belief of 12 strands of DNA and 12 dimensions? Or is the focus of the spiritual community on the 12 strands of DNA and the 12 dimensions creating the reality that consists of that we now observe through science? So it's kind of like a circle. It's all interesting. So which came first? Was it the belief, or was it the discovery, or was it already there and the discovery is proving the belief that was there? Is the question. And then the other thing that they say about string theory is that the strings are so small that we don't have the ability to see them with the current tools that we have, and we will never develop the technology or to be able to see them. And that right there is not true. We will never be able to develop the tools to be able to see things that small. That's not true, because again, if we have the desire to see them, we will create the tools. We didn't believe we could see atoms, and we didn't believe we could see electrons. We didn't believe we could see, even beyond that. And here we are. And so I've heard that so many times that we will never be able to. I remember right before the iPhone got announced, I had a friend who said that, like, we will never be able to discover anything beyond this. Like, we've reached the limits of our ability to move forward with technology and to have new discoveries. And then, like, a couple of years later, iPhone. So it's just like, it's the universe just always provides. As long as you understand that, you don't have to live in this mentality of scarcity. So, okay, wrapping all this up into something that we can actually use. So the first thing is whenever you're trying to create your reality, remember that there is always more. There is no scarcity. If you want more, there will be more. If you want more love, you will attract more love. If you want more appreciation, you will attract more appreciation. If you want more money, you will attract more money. And you don't have to take it from anyone else. It will be provided to you. It will be created for you. It is done. The next thing is things are always changing. And things are always changing, things are always in flux. So how are you going to organize that chaos? Because chaos is there, it is a beginning, it is a seed, but then it becomes organized. So how are you going to organize it with your observation, with you being the observer of your reality, of your experiment? How are you going to shape that? So you want something, you know you can have it, because anything you want, it can be there for you. There is no scarcity. So then how are you going to shape your perception to match it up with what you want to create? How are you going to focus that? How are you going to direct the chaos that is there, and understand that everything is changing? So you can direct what you want anytime that you want. It's always changing, always in flux. It looks slow to us on the surface, but it is always changing instantaneously deep down on the quantum level. And finally, once things start to shift for you, trust it. It can be really hard to adjust our mind. Our mind sometimes can be a little bit slow to catch up with the reality, which is funny because our minds imagine all these things. We're like, we want reality to catch up with us. Like, this is what I want, this is what I believe. Like, why hasn't it happened yet? But sometimes the reverse happens, where our minds, like, reality has shifted, and our minds are just like, no, I can't accept that. That hasn't happened yet. That's not, no, it's probably going to fail. Something's going to go wrong, something like that. So, trust that once you start seeing the signs, follow that trust that it's happening for you. And the more you trust, the more you start to believe, and the more you start to believe, your reality starts getting solidified in the way that you want it to. So that is what I have to share with you. Yeah, have a good weekend, and I will see you in my next video. And yeah, this was a conversation that I hadn't planned on talking about. It was like kind of in my mind, but I had planned to talk about something a little bit more, well, different. And I guess we'll talk about that next Saturday. So thank you for watching, and say hi in the replay, and I will see you later.